Welcome to Concussion Talk Podcast. This is episode 35. I'm talking with A from Yoga Brain, and I will get her to introduce herself and talk about how she got her first brain injury.
Hi, thank you for having me. I'm A. I'm from Yoga Brain. My Instagram handle is _Yoga Brain. My first brain injury was 10 years ago. I was 16 years old. I was playing basketball competitively, and I was cross-checked from behind by another player. When I tried to get back up, I was slammed against the floor because so many girls were trying to get the ball, and I ended up tearing some of the brain tissue. So that was my first brain injury that I had, and I still feel some of the side effects of that today.
Oh, wow. Well, before you tell us about the side effects, you have mentioned you've had more brain injuries, more concussions since then. So, do you know how many or when they happened?
So since my original brain injury, I've had 5 concussions. All of them have been pretty mild, but have brought on new symptoms. One happened right after high school. I got hit in the head with a milk crate, and the rest of them have all actually been within the past year and a half in my workplace.
Oh.
It's been getting hit in the head by, like a locker when someone's opening it, or my spatial sense isn't great, so I may hit my head on a desk. I ran into a defibrillator, which was interesting because, that's supposed to save lives, not cause concussions.
Yeah. So, could you tell us about the effects this had on you, like your symptoms and how it's affected your daily life or your sports? You sound like you were an athlete, so. So
I was a year-round athlete. I played basketball, soccer. I did a lot of long-distance running. I can't do that anymore. Definitely no sports. It's really not safe for me. In terms of side effects, my biggest symptom would be fatigue. Day to day, I also wear glasses that have corrected my vision since my brain injury, and my prescription seems to change after every concussion. Sometimes I have issues with word recall, regulating emotions, and just issues with my balance, and sometimes my memory as well isn't that great.
Yeah, and I'm with you on the eye thing. I've had double vision since my brain injury in 03. So what is it? Just your vision is not? Is it? Do you have prisms in your lenses, or are they just normal glasses?
So it's astigmatism. So after my original brain injury, one of my eyes moves a little to the side.
Okay.
It's not that noticeable, and then they're also for distance. So they're normal glasses, but they corrected my vision when everything was very blurry.
Yeah. I went down that and on the balance stuff too, and that and the fatigue as well. Fatigue hit me harder when first. I can still feel it later at night now. Do you find any? Is there any like thing that happens? One thing that's off your fatigue more than others, or?
That's something that sets off my fatigue more than others is probably being social.
Yeah.
So I do work as a youth worker, and the fatigue impacts me at work, but I find being social, having to make eye contact, pay attention for long periods of time, I find that to be the most draining for me.
Do you find sitting up like at restaurants or whatever? I find that tires me out, like sitting up for a long time in a shared restaurant or whatever, and lots of background noise and business and just around the area. Find that can be tiring.
Oh, absolutely. Like any situation where there's a lot of background noise, where there's lights. For example, right now the holidays are coming up. I'll be doing all my Christmas shopping online.
Oh, okay.
Like I won't be going into the mall. It's just too busy. There's too much going on for me to actually be able to focus and purchase what I need to purchase.
Yeah, I guess I'm walking around the mall itself would be tiring. Just being around there and all the people jostling and all that stuff. So, and actually, I first asked you last week. Last week you wrote an article or a blog post, or you want to call it, for my blog, Concussion Talk. Thank you very much for doing that. And you can find that on go to Concussion Talk under posts and Concussion and Brain Injury section of that drop down menu. But could you tell us more about, I guess, for how you got into yoga and like or why? I guess why how you got into yoga.
Absolutely. So first of all, thank you for inviting me to write for your website. I really appreciate it. So why yoga? I've had a yoga mat since I moved to Toronto. Like I wrote in my post, it seemed to be something that city people did. I'd gone to a couple of classes, but it didn't really stick.
Oh, sorry, city people. So where are you from?
Sorry, I'm in Toronto.
Yeah,
so I'm in a big city.
But where were you before that?
Before that, it was in Niagara Falls.
Okay. Sorry, go ahead.
A lot more yoga studios in Toronto than Niagara Falls.
Yeah. Okay, sorry, go ahead.
That's okay. But yeah, so I've always had the yoga mat, but why I moved towards yoga was it's something I can do at home. So I don't need to go to a studio. I don't need to go to a gym. I had tried kickboxing when I was in university, and I found it to be too much.
And
like
concussion, probably not a good move.
Absolutely. And even just like after work, the fatigue of just getting up and going somewhere can sometimes be too much. So yoga is something I can do in my apartment by myself, and that's where I mostly do it. And it's also something that I can do on my bad brain injury days. So even if I'm having a ton of symptoms, I can still get on my yoga mat, and then there's some form of the practice that I can do.
So what aspects of the practice do you find? I mean, I know I guess all of it, all flow and all that stuff, but is there any one like pose or movement that you really like that you find helps you with certain, or sorry, I'll rephrase that better. Is there certain poses or movements that you like for certain symptoms? Or if it's that complicated, then
sometimes just really like laying on your back, putting your palms up, and breathing deeply. Yeah. I find that to be really helpful for all of my symptoms, whether that be fatigue or if I'm experiencing any dizziness. I find that to just be really grounding.
I can see that.
My original injury was a whiplash one. So I do have back problems as well. And I find going between a downward dog position and then up into cobra, I find that really stretches out my back a lot.
Yeah,
and
like that?
It's helping me strengthen those muscles as well.
Yeah, I can see that too. So how does yoga, how does it make you feel towards your symptoms and your brain injury?
So I started reading Susan Collon's Yoga Mind. I'd mentioned her book in my blog, and I'm still reading it. It's like a 30-day journey to taking yoga beyond your physical practice, and it really helped. Her book has really helped me accept my symptoms as part of my life, and it's also like I realized after I had one brain injury that I had all these new physical symptoms. I was having something that looked like seizures, and it really was difficult to readjust my life after that. Like I had done it once before 10 years ago, and now here we are again having all these new symptoms that I hate. It's impacting my life all over again in different ways that I'm not used to. And I didn't realize how angry I was about it or upset I was about it. I'm one of those optimistic people that just keeps going. And I think her book helped me, first of all, recognize what I was feeling, but also change my thinking around
your perspective, really? Yes,
really changing my perspective around what these symptoms are, and that, that I love my brain, and my brain does all these wonderful things for me. And even though sometimes it doesn't do exactly what I want it to do, it's still doing what I need it to do right now, and it's doing the best it can.
Yeah. No. So do you find that your mind goes somewhere else? Like, do you not shut off your mind, but like, does your mind go to a different place than you do in in your work? As you see, you work with the in the community help center, community center.
Absolutely. So I recently started focusing more on the meditation side of yoga,
Okay, good.
and which I've found really helpful trying to figure out where my stresses are coming from. Like a very high percentage of people with brain injuries experience depression after their injury.
Yeah,
I didn't experience that at 16, and now I'm 26 years old, and it got to a place for me after so many concussions where I was wondering, am I experiencing depression? Do I need to go seek professional help? And like sitting and meditating, just sitting in a quiet space, I was able to more identify the stressors in my life and like what I was feeling as opposed to I may just have depression. I need to go get help for this. And by sitting and just being like having my brain go to a different place and getting a new perspective, I was more able to see that, maybe this aspect of my work life isn't contributing to my brain being healthy. Maybe me trying to be more social maybe it's just not the time for it right now.
yeah,
So instead of just jumping to a conclusion that I'm experiencing depression and I need to go get help, I was able to better adjust my life to where I am right now, kind of meeting my brain where it's at.
yeah, yeah. So do you still just do practice yoga at home, or have you gone to classes?
I've gone to some classes. I feel more comfortable practicing at home. Like I
I can see
said, with
that.
the fatigue, it's easier for me to do it here. I
You get
have gone to
around
some
Toronto and
classes,
stuff. Yeah,
and I'm glad I did. I went to a few classes. Like I always assumed yoga wasn't for me because I'm not very flexible. I have this injury that doesn't allow me to do a whole lot. But I was going to these classes where these instructors were talking about that anybody can do yoga and just really to do what feels good for your body. In Suzanne Collon's book, she talks about her friend who had an accident and he became paraplegic, and she was doing yoga with him. And I just think it's this really beautiful idea that anyone can do yoga. And
yeah,
like for me, after my last concussion, it was a lot more emotional. I felt like I had finally gotten my life kind of together. I'd gotten used to my new physical symptoms. I'd gotten used to the lifestyle changes. And then I got hit in the head again. And I was really upset. And my balance was off. And I was crying. And I was like, you know what? Like, I'm not going to do this. I can't do this. Yoga's not for me. My balance problems are too bad. But then I remembered and went back and thought, no, yoga's for everybody. There's things I can do here, and I can do this. And I'm going to keep practicing the physical part. But I was also reminded of how good I feel mentally when I am practicing.
right. That's great. So, actually, you gave me a really good segue, which I didn't even notice. I asked you about balance. How do you deal with balance poses in yoga, like tree pose or something like that?
I do it with
With the wall. That's how I do it.
I do it with the wall. I've used the wall before. I'm starting to try to more advanced poses because I've been practicing for a bit.
Yeah,
But I've been doing it like I've heard of people using pillows, putting them around their yoga mat in case they fall.
yeah,
But I think for me a lot of it was the mental side of it. So the idea that I can't do this. Like if I
yeah,
couldn't hold a pose and I'd fall or trip, I wasn't so much concerned about physical injury as I was that this was another thing in this world that I can't do. And
yeah.
it took me, and this took me a really long time to realize this, but how I really manage that is by being patient and kind with myself. So
Yeah,
if my intention is to hold a tree pose for 10 breaths and I hold it for 4, and my foot drops, it drops. And that's just how it is. That's what my body needed to do. And I'm going to try to pick my foot up again and finish off the rest of it. So I think
right.
really just being patient and kind with yourself.
Yeah. No, that's an excellent point because I can totally relate as you were describing. I was thinking back to when I was just Like if you, I'm now 15 years away from outside of my brain injury, and when I was less than that, I don't know, forget what years exactly, what how much time passed, but feeling just beat myself up for not being able to do something that I really shouldn't have expected myself to do. Now I'm 15 years out. Now I'm like, I'm totally okay with failing or falling down. I'm fine with that because I'm it's been this time and patience is just I just it doesn't affect me anymore because I'm not I've because I more confidence and patience just to know that that's fine. That happens and still you're still working to help it to improve your life, improve everything. So
I think you bring up an excellent point around brain injury and time. Like,
yeah,
it goes with everything. Like, time's what's going to heal a brain injury. Time is also going to help with those more like mental health and mental wellness
yeah,
components. I think like we try so hard to go to all these different doctors and try to get all this different help to cure our brain injury and help us. And sometimes those things are helpful, but really the best thing is time.
it's too bad 'cause it's so hard to get across. Like I couldn't get that. There was no way I was gonna get that across to myself. Like if I 10 years ago, there was no way I could tell myself just wait, just time and have patience. I remember my parents trying to tell me just have patience and it takes time. People trying about that. And I'm like, shut up! I don't need to hear that and all this stuff. But yeah, it is just unfortunately it is just time. And
Absolutely.
if you have patience for it, then it's very very rewarding.
Absolutely. And anyone listening to this that's has more of a recent injury, like time and patience is really going to be your best friends.
Definitely is, and that's yeah, good point. That's really hard to so it's hard to accept and hard to really think of, but it's so important. So
Absolutely. And I think like adding the yoga piece in, like it really helped me adjust to this new lifestyle. And it's also given me something to do. Like when you
yeah,
have to be patient when your brain injury is
yeah.
healing, sometimes it's hard to find things to do.
You can get bored. Yeah, yeah,
Absolutely.
yeah. All right, well, good point. So, yeah, do you have anything else you would like to add, or are you?
I want to thank you for having me and for anyone listening. If you are recovering from a brain injury, I I hope that this was helpful in some way. And if yoga is something that you think may be helpful for you, you are absolutely welcome to message me. My Instagram is _yogabrain. I'm happy to talk to anyone. I'm not a yoga teacher. I'm not a yoga expert, but I could just speak to my experience and I'm here to talk if anyone would like to reach out. And I want to thank you for having me.
Oh, thank you. This has been great, great chat. So, yes, thank you, and hopefully I'll see you. Everyone else, or not see you, but everyone else will get hold of me later on, or get hold of me. So no one's staying here. Hopefully you'll all join me again for my next podcast. But thank
Absolutely.
you so much.
Thank you. Take care.
You too. Thanks. You can read A's blog post at www.concussiontalk.com. Go to the posts menu and the drop down menu and go to concussion brain injury, and the post is called Yoga Brain. So thank you again for listening, and thank you to A for a great podcast. As always, music at the beginning of this podcast is by Ben Sound. www.bensound.com.